Do you like gambling? Do you like hex perks? If you said yes to either of these questions, this video is for you. And if you said no to either of those questions, well, that's unfortunate. And if you said yes and no, well, you might want to rethink your choices because, I mean, they're basically the same thing. Both are risky, both give you dopamine, and both have the opportunity to make you very, very depressed. So, today, I'm going to be using nothing but hex perks for 10 games straight. What strategies will I come up with? What concoctions, what abominations of builds will I run? Who knows? I mean, I do, but, like, I'm not going to tell you. You got to go watch the video. So, anyway, if you guys have been enjoying the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, do all the other stuff. And, on that note, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video, everybody. Game number 1. So, game 1, played Wraith, and how much value did I get out of my hex perks? Let me look here. Let me look at the script here. Nothing. I got no value. They got deleted within about 4 seconds. I was basically just an M1 killer the whole game. That was my shtick. I was a funny guy that bonked things with a stick. That was it. The hex perks were immediately deleted, so, you know, that was kind of depressing. But hey, I still ended up winning the game, so there is that. But you guys you didn't really click on this video to see me, like, succeed. So we're just gonna quietly move on to game 2. Game number 2, and wow, that pregame lobby, that's rough. That's a pretty rough pregame lobby. And on top of that, one of these donuts decided to put an offering in to bring us to AZHYMOVS Wrecking Yard. I hate this map with a passion. Like, seriously, I have a real history with this map. So I concocted a little plan. First of all, I was playing Trapper, which normally by itself is meh. Trapper's pretty bad. But with the totems I had, the perks I had, one of my perks was Hex Retribution. And what that does is every time someone, like, cleanses a totem or, like, cleanses a specific totem, their entire team is revealed for, I think it's, like, 20 seconds or, like, 15 seconds, something along those lines. And, yeah, I decided that, you know what? Let's play the Forbidden Fruit angle. So I'm going to fortify this totem that has Retribution on it to absolute hell and back. And these guys are going to commit all their resources to try and take care of it, only for them to realize that's a Retribution totem, and they just ended up wasting their time. And to make this plan even worse, I equipped an add-on to where if a survivor tries to disarm my trap, they themselves become injured. This build was pure evil. And I am so happy that these were the guys that received my evil plan. I'm so thrilled because I took great satisfaction in ripping this team apart. My evil plan worked perfectly. The Forbidden Fruit worked perfectly. These guys died on that totem. They really wanted to get that totem, like, really badly. They tried disarming the traps and they realized, oh crap, I get injured when I do that. And when they did finally get through the traps, they tried, you know, cleansing it. I'd either whack them on the head, or they just run away because, you know, they'd see me walking over, waddle. And when they did finally get the totem, it was a Retribution totem. So all that pain and suffering was just a giant waste of time. It was awesome. It was absolutely fantastic. This game went beautifully. It was also a very snowbally game, which I really appreciate. So good job, enemy team. You played yourself. Moving on. Game number 3. So, the important thing with game 3 I need to note right away is I got rid of that absolutely busted add-on I had at the beginning because A, I don't have that many of them, and B, that is really busted. So I'm just gonna save that for later. So I got rid of that add-on. I think I replaced it with, like, some other generic, like, yellow add-on or something. I'm sure I'll have the description on screen for you guys. But as for the actual game and my little Forbidden Fruit strategy, as I'm gonna call it from here on out, oh my god, it still worked beautifully. Oh my god. The only bad thing I can say about this game is I spent, like, the first, like, 2-3 minutes just setting up traps by the totems, but after that, oh my god, the plan worked beautifully. It was so beautiful. They tried to get the totems, and, like, you know, 50% of the time, they disarm all my traps, they get to the totem, only for it to be a Hex Retribution totem, and then their entire team would be revealed for, like, 10 seconds. It was amazing. This team probably lost their minds over this. This was absolutely amazing. It was, oh my god, this was so funny. Not to mention the fact that my traps also actually got value because they were, like, trying to disarm the totems. They were panicking. Like, it was just a good time. This whole Forbidden Fruit plan was really working, like, surprisingly well. So, hey, you know what? It's working out. And as for the actual, like, hex perks themselves, I didn't get really much of any value out of them. I mostly got value out of the fact that the enemy team wanted to get rid of the hex perks, more so than the hex perks buffs themselves, if that makes any sort of sense. So, yeah, this was fun. This team also got deleted. Game number 4. So, did I get any value out of the hex perks this game? No, they were about as useful as a wet blanket, and they got deleted within about 5 seconds. Not great. I also decided to play Doctor for some reason, although if I'm being honest, I think if I would have picked Trapper, it would not have made any difference, because they got the totems literally instantly, because the map I was playing on, the totems were just in really obvious and really bad spots, so, you know, that wasn't particularly ideal, but whatever, I guess. As for the game itself, I mean, it was an M1 game. Like, I have no perks. So once you get all my totems, I am literally useless, so they got all my perks, and I still won the game anyway, somehow. I mean, these guys were kind of donuts. They were very lucky donuts, but they were still donuts nonetheless, and they lost. Well, okay, technically they didn't lose, but, you know, 3 of them died, and the other one got, you know, the doors powered and escaped, so go them, I guess. Whoop-de-doo. Carry on. Game 5, I decided to do something stupid, and I played Hillbilly. That was really dumb. Why did I play Hillbilly? I know full well I can't operate Hillbilly to save my life. I don't know, maybe I was just, like, really confident after my winning spree, and I decided to, like, play Hillbilly, which, yeah, for those of you who have watched any of my videos, you'll know that I am a terrible Hillbilly player. And go figure, things did not go well. And not to mention my perks, yeah, they were not very good. Basically, they were a wet napkin. They got immediately destroyed, and I had no perks, basically. It was really fun. This was a fun game. I almost on an AZHYMOVS map, which I, as a rule of thumb, generally hate AZHYMOVS maps, especially when I'm playing Hillbilly, who collides with literally everything. So, you know, yeah, this game didn't go well. This was really bad. This was a pretty hard loss. Like, just straight up, I lost the game. It wasn't even, I just sucked. So, let's just quietly move on. Game 6, I decided to use this little device called my brain, and I thought to myself, who would be good at protecting totems? And the answer I came up with was Hag. It's Hag. Hag is literally the best option for this challenge. It's not even a debate. Like, not even a little. Hag is supreme. I don't know why it took me 6 games to figure out that Hag would be the best candidate for this. Literally, her whole shtick is placing down a hex and then teleporting to it every time someone steps on it. The plan was so simple, it was actually hilarious. I literally just went to my hex totem, placed down a funny little triangle, walked away, and every time someone tried to, you know, cleanse the totem, I just Baba Booeyed them, and then replaced the, you know, the funny triangle, and then if they went back, I just Baba Booeyed them again. The forbidden fruit thing worked just as well, if not better, compared to Trapper. It was great. I was also on Mountain Resort, which is like one of my favorite maps too, so that was also really helpful. And yeah, the plan worked pretty beautifully. This team wanted to get rid of those totems really badly, but every time they tried, they just tripped one of my traps, and I just showed up, and I Baba Booeyed them. They'd run away, I'd walk away, they'd come back, they'd hit another one of my traps, I'd Baba Booey them again, and then repeat this process like 8 times until they're all dead, or they cleanse the totem, and, you know, funny enough, they tried fighting for one specific totem for a while, and it was just a retribution totem, so I'm sure that team had a real fun time with that revelation. And, yeah, the team didn't last very long. They were done. I honestly think this team should have they just gave up. That was it. I don't think else to add. This was great. Good time. Moving on. Game number 7. So, game number 7, we are on Lambkin Lane, and unfortunately, the totems were in really bad spots for me. Like, they were scattered all over the map, and they were, like, wide out in the open. Like, it was super obvious to anyone with functioning eyes where the totems would be. So, I lost a totem pretty much instantly. Thankfully, that totem wasn't really that important, so, you know, that's a bonus. But one thing I noticed with this strategy, one unfortunate piece of this plan is setting up takes a while. Like, I spent a good, like, 2 minutes just setting up the funny triangles around the traps. Or not the traps, the hexes. And, yeah, It was kind of painful. They got a lot of gem progress in that time. I would say it wasn't worth it, but I thankfully got a lot of value out of it, and the plan worked pretty much the same as it did last time, albeit not quite as well. Also, these guys just didn't seem to care much about my totems, which was rather interesting because one of my totem perks is Hex Ruin, which was really helpful this game. Like, I guarantee you Hex Ruin got an ungodly amount of value, and every time they try to get rid of Hex Ruin, I just go over and Baba Booey them. It was actually pretty funny. Like, Hex Ruin was active like this whole game, and there was nothing this team could do about it, because every time they tried to get rid of it, I'd just show up and teleport to them. It was, I'll admit, that was actually pretty great. That felt pretty good. I feel bad for doing it, but also, like, that's kind of funny. So, either way, this team was actually pretty solid. Like, they realized pretty quick what I was up to, and they just kind of ignored the totems, even if it was super annoying. And you know what? That plan almost worked. Emphasis on the almost, because they still lost, but at least they had the brain cells to realize that, oh, this is some totem nonsense. Let's just leave it alone. And they did. So, good for them. Game 8. Oh, what a doozy of a game. So, remember how I mentioned the forbidden fruit angle? Well, we're back on Trapper, and oh my god, it worked so beautifully. Holy Jesus. There was one totem specifically that this team really wanted to get rid of, and for context, we're an underground complex. There's a little totem tucked away, like, behind some barrels, and there's two ways to, like, two angles to, like, get rid of it from. And they tried going from both angles multiple times, and every single time, they just waltzed straight into a trap. Either that, or I'd show up and just absolutely clown on them. It was absolutely hilarious. This team literally died on this totem. Like, it is not an exaggeration to say that this totem single-handedly won me the game. Not because of the perk it got me, because I'm like 90% sure this was a retribution totem, so if they did get it, it would have just resulted in me getting more intel on them. No, they just died on this totem. It was actually... it was so bad. I mean, the footage doesn't even show you the full story, because this team was getting clowned on by this totem the whole game, and they didn't even get it. They didn't, after all the work they put into this totem, they just never got it, and it was so funny. It was so bad. Oh, this plan was so evil, and it worked so perfectly. I don't have anything else to add. I mean, this team died because of a totem. What else can I say? It was beautiful. Game number 9, and I'm just going to direct your attention to the pre-game lobby. Yeah, these guys wanted to make me commit toaster bath the moment I saw that there were 2 P100s. And just to really add some spice in the wound, every single one of them had flashlights. And not just that, they had upgraded flashlights. This was great. I love being blinded every 4 seconds. It's so fun and engaging. I love being blinded constantly. It's so fun. Bully squad aside. Hex perks. How did they do? Not well, for the most part. There was one exception, and that was the Hex Ruin totem, which I made sure was defended. And that Hex Ruin totem stayed up for a long time. Like, that thing, I did not let them get that till the very, very late game. And that Hex Ruin totem got me an ungodly amount of value. And this team also wanted to get rid of it, but I just wouldn't let them. It was actually pretty great. The only thing that went wrong this game is the early game was genuinely some of the most miserable Dead by Daylight gameplay you will ever see. It literally was just the same. Get bonked on the head with a pallet, get blinded, walk forward, get blinded, breathe wrong, get blinded, stare at them, stare in their general direction, I get blinded. It was so annoying. I hated this team. Every single one of them had flashlights, and it actually drove me nuts. Like, it was so irritating. So, suffice it to say, I took great satisfaction in ripping this team apart. Also, I decided that these guys are going to be bullies. I'm just going to play like an absolute and utter donut and just, like, I'm going to put traps around hooks. I'm going to put traps in, like, the most inconvenient spots imaginable. I was holding nothing back. Usually with Hag, I have a certain play style I like to play. Like, I'd like to, I typically don't place, like, hex traps, like, right under, like, hooks or anything, because that just seems kind of scummy to me. But this team, oh, they deserved it. I don't feel bad about placing traps, like, on hooked players in this lobby. I don't feel bad at all. These guys deserved it. They deserved to get smoked. And you know what? That's exactly what happened. Despite having 2 P100s, and all with max flashlights, they still lost. Good job, Bully Squad. Hope you enjoyed yourself. Game 10. So, interesting thing about Game 10. This team who had 0 P100s played infinitely better than the team that had 2 P100s. This team used their thing called their eyes and the thing behind their eyes to tell themselves, maybe I shouldn't, step on the traps. And maybe I shouldn't, try and, mess with the killer constant. Maybe I should play the game as it was intended. And that's exactly what they did. Sure, the traps, bit their ankles a few times, but they learned pretty quick that, hey, wait a minute, how come whenever I try and disarm a trap, the trap disarms me of my leg? So they decided to stop trying to disarm my traps because they knew that wasn't going to work well. And you know what? As for my hex perks, they kinda got deleted. The only hex perk I was able to keep was Ruin. And the only reason why I was able to keep that was because the totem was in an absolutely disgusting spot where they literally had to disarm a trap in order to get it. And the problem was that they tried to disarm the trap. I had the bloody coil add-on on, so if they tried to disarm it, they themselves would get injured. So they just decided that, you know what? It's not worth it. I don't want to do this. I ain't touching that thing with a 10-foot pole. So they ignored it. And guess what? They did pretty well. This was a very chase-heavy game. Yes, I did get a little trap value here, but not a whole lot. And honestly, my totems didn't do all that much either. So, I don't know. This team was actually, they did a smart thing. And they actually got the doors powered, and, there were still 2 of them alive. They played this really well. Unfortunately for them, NOED is a perk that exists. And they immediately got absolutely whomped the second they tried to leave. I'm going to be honest, that was a pretty satisfying ending because I genuinely thought it was going to be a tie. But then they played themselves. So you know what? I'll take the dub. And let's move on to the conclusion of this video before I go on a rant. So what did we learn about hex perks? Well, the gambling analogy I made at the beginning of this video, pretty accurate. Hex perks are either really satisfying or really depressing. There's no in between. They either pop off or they do nothing. No in between. And I'll admit, some of the strategies and builds I came up with were kind of evil. And it's kind of fun. I might unironically run an all hex build every once in a while because it's just kind of fun. It's like gambling. You just spin a wheel and sometimes you win big and other times you just lose everything and then have to live out of a cardboard box. Anyway, if you guys did enjoy the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, do all the other YouTuber stuff. And on that note, stay strong, stay clear. Spitfire out.